What is money? Money is an idea. Think about it. Since the gold standard was broke in 1971, money is no longer attached to gold, meaning that whatever you have in your pocket that you call cash, look at that, Federal Reserve note. It doesn't say dollar, it says $20 on the bottom, but it doesn't say US dollar. It says Federal Reserve note. Now, if you ever watch Dumb and Dumber, check it out.
Listen, Mr. Samsonite, about the briefcase, my friend Harry and I have every intention of fully reimbursing you.
Open it up. Open it up!
Go ahead. Open it up. Do what he says. Harry.
What is this? What is this? Where's all the money?
That's as good as money, sir. Those are IOUs. Go ahead and add it up. Every cent's accounted for. Look. See this? That's a car. $275,000. Might want to hang on to that one.
This little paper, it's basically the same thing. The Federal Reserve printed and gave it a value of $20. These are not really $20. These are Federal Reserve notes. These are IOU. What is value? Just like this, we gave that a value of $20. When you go to a business and you give them this, they will give you goods worth of $20. Now, the more the Federal Reserve is printing more of this, the value of this is going down. Now, people who doesn't understand economy having a hard time grasping that idea in their brain, and they said, well, that money is worth $20 today and tomorrow. But they don't consider inflation. The whole concept of inflation is kind of hard to grasp for them. Let's talk about value. The agreement between businesses, people about something worth something. When you say Bitcoin does not worth $16,000 or Bitcoin is a scam, well, let me ask you this. If you buy a Rolex, if you buy Louis Vuitton, who's determining the price of that item? Something will be worth something as long as people will be willing to pay for it. NFT. What is NFT? NFT could be just a picture, but who's giving it value? The people who purchase that. If people purchase something, it's making it value. Think about the last time you went to a restaurant. If the restaurant was empty, it's probably not that valuable. Probably it's not that good, and you probably would leave. But as soon as you walk across the restaurant and suddenly you see a lot of people flocking that restaurant, you immediately assuming that this restaurant must be good. When the federal government needs more money, just like they did right now, when they pass a budget of how much was it? 1.7 trillion with T, trillion dollars. Who's gonna pay for that? Who do you think gonna pay for that? Yeah, you, the taxpayer, yeah. Tax the rich. Robin Hood is a beautiful story. It's a noble story. Taking from the rich, giving to the poor. Who doesn't want to be modern day Santa Claus? You know, giving away his wealth. Just like Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF as you know him, gave away his wealth. You know, I hear a lot of people, especially from the finance world, calling to regulate crypto.
The bank's head of institutional portfolio strategy, Jared Gross, stated that large institutional investors view crypto assets as non-existent. This shift in stance follows JP Morgan's call for regulation in the crypto market due to the FTX collapse.
Now, I really try to put thought into it and try to think like when people calling to regulate, and it's not just financial people, financial advisor, a lot of people say, don't invest in crypto because it's unregulated. Now let me ask you this. When you say regulate, you mean that you want the government to basically step in every time a bank or a financial institution was taking the money away from you, not by your fault, and just leaving you with nothing.
About deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer.
It is a very frustrating feeling that unjustifiedly you are working hard, putting your money into investment, and then some motherfucker just came and took it all. It's pissing me off. It's boiling everybody's blood. And I get it. I get it. I get why people are afraid to put their money in crypto and I'm afraid to put their money in risky assets. But you got to understand, when you're investing, risk is part of it. It's like when you're riding a skateboard, falling off the skateboard is part of it. Shit happens. But on the contrary, when you're making good investment, when you're learning about the financial assets, the financial investment that you're making, you're minimizing the amount of risk you're taking every time you're making that risk. When people say they want to regulate crypto exchange, they want to regulate cryptocurrency, what they're basically saying in different words, we want to make sure that if we put our money, then tomorrow some is not going to take the money away from us. Some Sam Bankman-Fried or other asshole is going to take their money and take it away. Well, people who said that, just like Shapiro mentioned in this clip,
it's actually people who didn't understand the very premise of crypto who actually got ripped off here. So the premise of crypto is that it's a trustless system, right? The entire basis of crypto is I don't have to trust that my money, I don't have to trust you that my money is in your bank because I have my crypto wallet, it's owned by me, I have the code, it's in my possession. People forgot the basis of crypto and they left their money in the care of somebody else, right? They left their care they left their money in the care of FTX. They left it in the exchange. By leaving it in the exchange, that made it vulnerable to being embezzled. And so it's actually not a repudiation of crypto. It's a repudiation of a system in which people assumed they could trust authority figures once again, and it turns out that they couldn't.
Cryptocurrency was invented because the financial system failed the people. In this video, you can see that this guy is talking about the banks.
Commissioner, Mr. President, I rise again, I'm afraid, to make the same old hoary speech that I've been making here for several years, and that is, it is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
He's talking about the fact that every time you deposit your money inside the bank, the money is no longer belong to you. If you deposit, let's say, if you put $50,000 in your bank, you put $50,000 and you want to cash it out. As soon as you put it in the bank will not going to give you cash on the spot. You know why? Because the bank doesn't have it. The bank doesn't have the money in cash. It's a digit on a screen. That's what it is. It's not real. So when people say crypto is not real, it's a Petrock.
Crypto tokens are like pet rocks.
What do you think the US dollar is based on? Nothing. It's based on trust. That's all. If tomorrow Joe Biden want to spend $10 billion, he just give a call to Jerome Powell and he say, hey buddy, I need $10 billion. Jerome on the other side say, no problem, Mr. President, we're on it. He's printing, the federal government is printing bonds, $10 billion worth of bonds. They're sending it directly to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is buying those bonds and sending them cash money. Federal Reserve note. That's what they're sending them. Now, all of that process doesn't really happen in envelope and, Breaking Bad style. No, it doesn't happen in open field and changing suitcase. It happens over a computer. Eventually, it all boils down to a number on a screen. That number goes from your account to my account, from my account to your account. That's it. So when people say cryptocurrency is not real, when fear holding people's heart, they're talking out of fear. When they say, I want the federal government to regulate cryptocurrency, they're missing the whole point. When you're having cryptocurrency in your digital wallet, unlike regular wallet that I can just grab it away from you and take the money inside, when you're talking about cryptocurrency, especially stablecoin, that it's on your wallet, as soon as it hits your wallet, it's on the blockchain. Nobody can touch it without your keys. If you don't give them the keys, your money stays yours. If I want tomorrow to take that stablecoin and cash it out, to use it, to buy groceries, to buy services, to buy goods, I can't do it. I can't do it. And why? Because nobody's accepting it. Well, what if they will? What if tomorrow we will build a system that you'll be able to take stablecoin and actually pay the business with stablecoin? One last thing I wanted to say. I'm going to conclude with a story from the book, The 48 Laws of Power. The story is taking place in the city named Edo, known as Tokyo nowadays. And the story goes that one artist collector was going between tea shop and tea shop. And as you know, the Japanese have a very distinct taste for the tea ceremony. And this guy, he was an art appraiser. He sat down at this tea shop drinking tea, and he was fascinated by this, the way that the steams came out of the tea, that he was so fascinated by the way that the cup was holding the steam that he had to purchase it. He asked the owner of the tea shop if he could purchase that teacup. A standby watcher that saw him recognized this guy, and he said, oh, he's an art appraiser. If he bought that teacup, it must be worth something. So he just rushed to him and he said, can I buy that teacup from you? The guy was so confused, and he said, why would you want to buy it? It's a simple teacup. So he said, well, I noticed that you were looking at it and you were, diagnosing it. So I thought, if you find it interesting, it probably has value. Well, the guy said, well, I just thought it has a leak. That's why I keep looking, because I thought it's leaking, the way the steam came out of it. Anyway, long story short, the art appraiser gave him the permission to buy it from me. And he said, you know what? I don't need your money. Just take it for free. The guy, the standby who got the cup, was so excited that he got something so valuable from this art collector that he went to the pawn shop and tried to get an appraisal on this teacup. But as soon as he got to the pawn shop, the guy looked at the teacup and he said, this is worthless. It's a regular cup of tea. So eventually, he got back to that art appraiser, and he got so frustrated because he thought he got something valuable, and he told him, you tricked me. You didn't give me anything. So eventually, the art collector felt bad about the situation. He said, you know what? I'll buy it from you. I know that you're trying to gain something from it. I'll buy it from you because I feel bad. So he bought it from him for $1,000, for example. Back then it was yen, but let's just go with dollars. He bought it back from him for $1,000. People heard that he bought this teacup from him for $1,000. They rushed to the store to hear the story, like, where is the cup? Where is that valuable cup? Eventually, they got to a point that there was an auction about the same cup. And in that auction, two people were bidding in a bidding war. And the other one, two of them really got to like crazy amount of pricing for a teacup. like $15,000 or more. Eventually, both of them got to a point that they really wanted that cup, so they just, as soon as the winner was announced, the other guy was grabbed the teacup. They both pulled and pulled and pulled, and eventually the teacup fell on the floor and broke to pieces. The art appraiser picked up the pieces and put the teacup back together. A few years later, a guy that is also an art collector passed by the same art collector shop, and he saw the same teacup on the stand in the store. And he asked him, "Can I buy it from you?" And he offered him really ridiculous, let's say $100,000 for that teacup. And eventually he did buy it. And since then, this is why a porcelain that is broken became very known among the Japanese culture as something valuable. The point of the story is to point you that eventually we, the people, we are the one who putting value into items. That piece of paper is worth $20 because we put the value in it. At the end of the day, it's a combination between a paper and a fabric. But we put the value of the $20 in it. The same way that we put the value in anything collectible. If I had a guitar that was played by Elvis Presley, it probably would worth at least a few millions because it was played by Elvis Presley. We embedded value into that item. So at the end of the day, money, what I'm trying to say is money is an illusion. It's not real. It's something we embedded value into. So when you say crypto is just like a Petrock, well, that Petrock might be really valuable for one person or might be really pointless or worthless for another.